Right now, the average used car in America, and I mean a used one, not new, costs about $25,600. You've felt this. You've stood in a dealership watching the number climb on a 5-year-old sedan with 100,000 miles on it, thinking, when did this get insane? So here is something that should not be possible. In this same country, in this same year, there are entire houses, real ones, with a roof and walls and a yard and a front door, selling for less than that car. Not a trailer, not a timeshare, a house. Some of them go for the price of a decent laptop, and one of them, and I promise I am not stretching this to keep you watching, sold for a single dollar. The second you hear that, your brain does the obvious thing. It says, where do I sign? Hold that thought. Because the reason these houses are this cheap is not generosity. It is not a glitch in the system. And by the time we are done here, you are going to wish the answer were as simple as it sounds. Let's lay out the gap, because the gap is the entire story. A used car in this country averages around $25,600, with the median closer to $18,000. A brand new car will run you nearly $50,000, and even a car that is only 3 years old still averages over $31,000. Here's the strange part. Used car prices are falling, down about 6% in a single year. Cars, the one thing famous for losing value the instant you drive off the lot, are getting cheaper. Meanwhile, housing swallows roughly 40 cents of every dollar the typical family earns, and those prices are not coming down for anyone. And where you stand changes the math. In Delaware, you can find a used car for around $8,000. Try that in Alaska, and the average jumps to nearly $33,000 because shipping a car all the way up there quietly wrecks you. So that is the world of cars. Now look at the houses. In Gary, Indiana, someone listed a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,600 square feet, for $19,600. That is not a deposit. That is the whole price. And it is less than the average used car. And Gary is the gentle example. Because out there, right now, houses are going for $40,000, for $1,000, for $1. The question is not whether this is real. It is real. The question is what kind of place sells a house for less than a set of new tires, and what happens to the person who signs for it. To see how? Start in Detroit. The city runs something called the Detroit Land Bank, and it sits on tens of thousands of abandoned houses, the wreckage of a city that lost most of its people. To get them off the books, it auctions them. The minimum bid is $1,000. The average house sells for around $2,787. People pay more than that for a used dishwasher, and for one shining moment, it feels like you beat the game. You are holding the deed to a real house in a major American city for less than a month of rent in a normal town. Then you walk inside, and the moment ends. Because these are not houses you move into. They are houses that used to be lived in, gutted, stripped, sitting empty for years. And here's the sentence that should make the hair on your neck stand up. The land bank will tell you, right to your face, that it does not know whether the water line to the house even works. So you buy it. You go to turn on the water, and you discover the pipe to the street was physically cut, or it is ancient lead, and replacing it costs $10,000 to $15,000, several times what you paid for the entire house. And that is before you have fixed one other thing. And the house will not sit politely and wait for you. While you are saving and scheduling and pricing out contractors, the house is being eaten alive. Vacant homes in these neighborhoods get stripped overnight. You put in brand new windows, they are gone by the weekend. You run fresh copper wiring, someone tears it out of the walls for scrap. You install a new furnace and a new water heater, the expensive stuff. And you come back to a hole where they used to be. So you pay for the same repair twice, 3 times, watching your own money drive away in a stranger's truck. Now you would think surely there is help. Surely a city drowning in broken houses has grants for the people fixing them. There are. You do not qualify for almost any of them. Because those repair grants are written for people who already live in the home, and you cannot live in a house with no water and no heat. So the person spending the most to save a house is locked out of the help, precisely because the house is not livable yet. And when you go hunting for a contractor, the land bank refuses to recommend one. They stay out of it entirely. So you are a first-time buyer with no guidance, handing a deposit to a stranger, and a certain kind of stranger knows exactly who you are. They take the deposit, they never come back. But every bit of that, the water, the thieves, the con artists, that is just the cover charge. The real trap is quieter, and it is the reason the people of Detroit gave it a name. They call it the buyer's dilemma. Here is how the jaws close. The land bank hands you a deadline to renovate the house. Miss it, and they can take the house right back. So you throw every dollar you have into fixing it fast. But the instant you start improving the property, the city reassesses it, and your property taxes climb. And these are buyers who just emptied their savings on the renovation, so now they cannot cover the new tax bill, fall behind on property taxes in Detroit, and the county can foreclose and take the house. So look at the choice you are left with. Spend your cash racing the renovation deadline, and the tax bill buries you, and you lose the house. Or pay the taxes. Miss the renovation deadline, and the land bank takes the house. 2 doors, both of them locked, and the numbers are merciless. Roughly half of everyone who bought one of these homes between 2015 and 2021 fell behind on their property taxes, owing nearly $7 million altogether. About 1 in 8 of them owes more in back taxes than they paid for the house in the first place. Out of thousands of hopeful buyers, only 4,699 ever made it into the clear, and 942 of them simply lost the house. The dollar dream? Foreclosed. Maybe that just sounds like one badly run city. So go east to Baltimore, which has its own famous version of the fantasy. Baltimore will sell you a vacant brick row house for $1, $1 real dollar. It is the kind of headline that makes people quit their jobs and start filling boxes. But read the fine print, because the fine print is the whole game. To even qualify to buy that $1 house, you have to prove you have $90,000 in cash or in financing, ready to spend. Why $90,000? Because rehabbing one of those old row houses costs somewhere between $125 and $150 per square foot, which lands at roughly $125,000 to $150,000 to make it fit for a human being to live in. And you have to live in it as your main home for 5 years and pass an inspection within the first one. So yes, the $1 house is real. The $1 is also a magic trick. The price was never $1. The price was $150,000 in 5 years of your life, and the dollar was just the part they printed on the sign. Which brings us to the saddest place in this entire story, a town called Cairo, Illinois. And the locals there say it Cairo, not like the city in Egypt. Cairo sits at the very bottom tip of the state, right where the Ohio River pours into the Mississippi, which once made it one of the busiest river ports in the country. Steamboats, railroads, money, crowds. In 1920, more than 15,000 people lived there. Today, fewer than 1,500 do, and the town is still shrinking by about 3% every single year. The average home in Cairo is worth around $40,000, less than plenty of used cars, and that value is dropping almost 19% a year, which means the house is worth visibly less every few months you hold it. There's no grocery store worth the name. People drive across the river into Kentucky or Missouri just to buy food and fill the tank. And then there's what happened in 2019. The federal government condemned and tore down the 2 biggest public housing complexes in town because they had been left to rot. Fair enough. Except no one had built any new housing in Cairo in nearly 50 years. So when those buildings came down, the families inside them had nowhere left in town to go. So they did not move across Cairo. They moved out of it. The town demolished a piece of its own population and watched it drive away for good. And here is where Cairo's story curls into something nobody could have invented. In 2023, a tiny rural bank decided it was going to single-handedly save the town. The plan was huge. Buy a giant 3D printing machine, the kind that squeezes out concrete walls layer by layer, and literally print cheap new homes to refill Cairo and pull people back. To make it happen, that little bank loaned out $1.1 million, which was nearly double the legal limit on how much it is allowed to lend to a single customer. That is how badly they wanted this to work. And the startup behind the printer, a company called Prestige, was co-founded by, of all people on earth, a used car dealer. Sit with that for a second. A used car dealer's plan to print houses, hiding inside a video about houses that cost less than used cars. By 2025, the whole thing had collapsed. Not a single home was ever printed. A $590,000 deposit was simply walked away from. The enormous printer was left sitting out in a field, rusting, and the FBI started circling. Now, you would be forgiven for assuming every cheap town in America is a corpse like this. It is not. Look at Youngstown, Ohio. Youngstown got gutted when the steel industry died. And for years, it was the national poster child for a city coming apart. But quietly, it has been clawing its way back. The average home there is worth around $71,000 and rising a healthy 6.6% a year, held up by a state university and a hospital network that give people a reason to stay. You can buy a solid, livable house in Youngstown for the price of a used car. The distressed ones go for $35,000 to $55,000 without it being a bottomless money pit. Cheap, as it turns out, does not have to mean doomed, and that one difference is the key that unlocks this whole thing. Because here is what every one of these places is really telling you the second you stop staring at the price tag. A house cheaper than a car sounds like the deal of the century. It is not a deal. It is a handoff. These cities are not being generous with you. They are sitting on thousands of houses that cost them money, bleed their budgets, and drag down whole blocks. And the rock bottom price is how they shove that burden onto a private citizen and walk away whistling. The dollar is bait. The $1,000 auction is bait. The real price was never on the sign. It was the $90,000, the $150,000, the years of your life. The furnace you will buy 3 separate times, which leads to the cruelest part, the part that never makes the headline. The cheapest homes in America are almost completely out of reach for the poor people who need a cheap home the most. They only work for someone who already has a deep stack of cash to pour in and risk losing. And think about what you walk away with at the end. A used car, even a dented one, is yours. It holds some value. You can sell it tomorrow, and you can drive it anywhere in the country. A $1 house is bolted to the ground in a town that is dying around it. And that town, not the house, is what truly sets the price. The fairy tale and the trap are the exact same house. So the next time you scroll past one of those listings, a whole home for less than your car payment, you will know the only question worth asking. Not how much is the house, but what is it going to cost me to keep it? And if this rearranged something in your head, do me one favor. Send it to that one person you know who is always threatening to buy a dollar house and vanish. Tell them to watch the whole thing first. And if you made it all the way to the end, you are exactly who this channel is built for. So subscribe, because next time we are ripping the roof off another piece of America you thought you understood. And before you go, drop a comment and tell me, would you ever roll the dice on a $1 house in a dying town? Or would you run?